With the carnage of Talladega behind us, it's time to turn our attention to the Roval. It's the final race of stage 2 of the playoffs. We're going to have some more drivers go bye-bye, and we're going to be down to the round of 8. We'll talk how Dega went. We'll talk why we shouldn't bet it anymore. We'll get ready for the Roval and so much more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, it's lovely Monday. Here to recap our Tuesday, even better. Recap the week that was at Talladega, the carnage, the nonsense, the shenanigans, the almost could have been potentially, maybe sort of didn't, but never did. And get our attention to the Roval, where we can actually be a little more serious about betting and not have to limit ourselves or feel like we have a little bit more of an edge, even when maybe we don't, maybe we do, who knows. But how's everything with you?
Everything's going good, my friend. Like you said, it's the last race of the second round here of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and we're in for a doozy with after what happened at Talladega, which came to a surprise of everyone after they were essentially, being extremely cautious for the most part during the race. And then all of a sudden, people forgot how to lift when there was a lapped car merging or attempting to merge in, and a train wreck literally happens with 28 cars, I think it was, registering within the wreck. The actual big one, the largest wreck ever in the history of NASCAR. And
yeah, they literally throw the red flag, everybody park it, we'll figure this shit out.
Yeah, and it's just been a microcosm of the season. We've seen so many weird things happen. We've seen extremely close finishes. Even this race came down to an extremely close finish and a controversial non-push by Kyle Larson on Brad Keselowski in the manufacturer wars. So it's been chaos.
Yeah, I think my favorite part was when I texted you. I think Cindric was in the lead at this point. I said no, he wasn't, because I was like, I have outrights on 2 through 5
for sure.
How many finished there, and how many finished the race? And you just laughed at me.
Yeah,
and I was like, I was feeling great. I was on the right names. I was feeling good. I had a Cindric outright when he was crushing. I was like, okay, like I know carnage is probably going to happen. We're going to end up with a restart, but what happened was not what I expected. And of course, I had to Chase Elliott outright, and he almost snuck through until he didn't, and then he got clipped in the back, and nonsense occurred, and everyone was crashing. And of course, Bill Byron is the one that sneaks through. I'm like, all right, come on, Billy, go win this race. Let's cash this ticket. Let's get a winner. No, they decided, actually, we're just going to cruise around and let Stenhouse get the win.
Well, I think the thing that bothered me the most about the finish was not that Stenhouse or Keselowski were going to win the race. I kind of expected that after all those guys had wrecked out and they were showing the playoff standings. Those guys, literally, all they had to do was finish where they were at, and they're in a great position.
Yeah, like Byron's literally locked in, so there was no reason for him to push.
Exactly. So I kind of figured his day was done. Now, the issue that I had with the finish there is, how can NASCAR be taken seriously when Ricky Stenhouse was missing the whole left side panel of his door that exposed the foam that's supposed to be protecting the driver, in which we've already had an issue with this before, where it's in the rule book. Like, you cannot continue on track if you're missing part of that. And then it comes out yesterday. I listened to a snippet of Denny's Actions Detrimental, and he pointed out that the RFK cars were missing part of the roof rails on the right front. Like, how was that not caught in the post-race inspection? With both of those cars should have been disqualified, and the win should have been awarded to William Byron. And then going back even further,
now I'm even more depressed, Brian.
I'm just saying. And then going back to the whole wreck, they're allowing cars to get towed back to pit road and then make repairs to finish the race. Like, what the F are we doing? just a week after Josh Berry was told he couldn't continue because they towed him into the infield. Like, what the F are we doing?
Yeah, and it's a play. It's not like it's a all-star race or something where they want to keep everything on track. This is a playoff race. There's
You
shit on the
can't just
line.
make up the rules as you go. It was
That's kind of how
infuriating.
NASCAR rolls, unfortunately. So yeah, so it was a frustrating race for sure. It was a good reminder that we should not be betting real dollars on this stupid race, because even when you have the bets, even when you're in position to
Yep.
potentially cash, like you're sitting there looking really good with a bunch of names, it gets you. The snake bites, and then you're totally effed. So
I mean, I will say it is very appropriate that the winner is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And this is now the second time that he's won at a super speedway. When I saw some people posting tickets on it. Now those were like, oh, why the hell not? But nobody was talking about the 47 finding victory lane.
no, like we were saying, like I was sort of interested, but he was like 33, and we're like, we can't bet that. That's
Exactly.
stupid. He needs to be like
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I guess let's look at the betting card. Look at the carnage. Oh, there's a lot of red, and probably shouldn't bet Dega just kind of in general. But
Yeah.
of the bets that I made, I don't feel bad about. I don't think a single one. Chase was there. He was in the top 5 almost all day until the wreck. I thought he was going to sneak through. Red Dog was solid, especially at his price. Larson was right there. He even had a shot at the end. I thought maybe he could push and get a sneaky win. Obviously, we
But
talked
again,
about Byron. He was, finished third, could have finished first. Bubba was in contention for a good chunk of the day. Bowman was fine. Gilliland, when he qualifies third, getting him from 22 to 12, I will take that every time. Bell, was in contention. I think Byron's the only one that beat him in this group, so
yeah.
that's, I was close to hitting at 5-1. I was happy with that. Cindric top 4. I thought he was going to win the race. Bell and then Briscoe. So I don't hate any of the numbers I got. I think they were all there when it mattered most.
And I was
Fortunately,
also, and then I'll also add, like, prior to the wreck, if you're sitting on the card that you had, you're sitting pretty. I mean, you
yeah,
have basically all the guys running up front outside of possibly Logano. I think that was it. Like, he was the only guy that I was really worried about potentially winning the race and ruining everybody's
yeah.
bet.
Like I thought there was going to be a wreck, but then I was going to be sitting with like 3 of the top 6 cars or
Exactly.
5 of the top 6 cars, and being like, okay, I'm in prime position. If the one car that I don't have beats me, then that's what happens. But I'm in a
Yeah.
good position with a lot of compelling candidates. Obviously, the wreck happens at the front and not the back, and that's why we have the massive wreck. That's why we have the race red flagged, and that's why we have all the nonsense that we have to deal with. You were a lot more reserved than I was. Obviously, you did take your shots. Host of our how'd that Truex bet work out for you? He was awesome, wasn't he?
Hey
So
man, he was doing right by staying out of the front, away from the chaos, and then just unfortunately, like
yeah.
everybody else, he got caught up. Now, was he ever a contender to potentially win the race?
No.
Probably not. But again, that's why it was a half a unit. It was a tiny play.
Yeah, you were convinced Truex is going to win. Nope. My favorite thing was when the race started, and all I saw was the 11 car just doing this, going to the back. As soon as the race started, he just got to the wall and was going to the back. He
What's
is not interested in being up there early in the race.
What's really interesting about Denny is he talks about on his show how this package in the Gen 7 car at super speedways is nowhere near what it was like racing in Gen 6 and prior iterations, to where you can make passes, but he continues to race it like it is in the Gen 6 or Gen 5 by dropping to the rear and insisting that he's somehow going to magically be able to make up all those spots like he used to. So it's like
Can't teach a
trying to
old
get him
dog
to
new tricks, Brian.
train his
He's
pig.
he's stuck in his ways. That's what he does. It's kind of
Yeah,
just gets out there, and that's how it works.
yeah, it's confusing to listen to him because he makes sense in what he's talking about, but he's not practicing what he's preaching.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. You did hit Bowman over Elliott, so congratulations on that. That was the only bet of the day that either of us hit.
It actually wound up with a positive
Look at
a net
you
gain for me on the weekend.
kicking the shit out of me this season. Well done. Listen to Brian. Avoid me. We'll be okay. We could talk some DraftKings. Decent week, not great, but I felt like we got to the right names. Just didn't quite make it there. Hocevar was a really nice call. Obviously, finishes 14th, has a good day. Briscoe was having a good day until he wasn't. Suarez, Mr. Tootsie, was out the paint quickly.
What a
Bowman.
dumb shit move, by the way. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, Danielson, and then of course Ross looked like he might win the damn race, and I was kicking
Yeah.
myself for not betting it. And then obviously he gets caught up in the carnage. So he was in the Blaney rack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a whole nother story. What was this one? This one was similar. LaJoy was fine. Zane was fine. Pasta Man was a little underwhelming, but
I think he made up like 3 laps because of the final
yeah.
stuff that started happening. All the cautions hit at the right time for him to take like a wave around and then be able to make up. I believe at one point he was 2 or 3 laps down. So congrats to him making all that ground up.
Yeah. This was our winning lineup. Obviously, Bill Byron, Bob Wallace, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex, just outside the top 10. It had Stenhouse, obviously. You're like, should we include Stenhouse in a lineup? I'm like, why not? And of course, it's the one that hits.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's Talladega. In a nutshell, right there. Like, why the hell not? And then that guy is the one that winds up winning the freaking race.
Yeah. RFK, like Busher being pretty trash. Like, obviously, Brad got there at the end because of all the nonsense. But like, I don't think he was that great all day. Obviously, Suarez sucked. Briscoe sucked. Eric Jones ending up in a top 5 spot. LaJoy and Zane Smith.
Yeah, it's almost as if Dega and like Daytona, they've become track position races because you have to be up front if you have any hopes of winning because you cannot make up those spots
Yeah, but
anymore.
also like you have to be in the right track position for when the wreck happens. Otherwise, you're getting wiped out. So it's like
Yeah,
you could be up front, but then you end up getting screwed because that's where the carnage happens, and then
yeah, true.
the people in the back are able to kind of flip to the front. So I don't know. Not a great week, but it was fine. Any other big takeaways from Talladega before we turn our attention and talk some Roval?
Don't bet it.
Talladega.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
don't.
Just don't.
I was just gonna say, just do like what Kyle. I know Kyle shows a lot of red, but from comparatively to what our normal cards look like in terms of units, it was minuscule. So I think if you're going to bet the super speedway races, you take a shot on some longer odds guys,
Yep.
maybe the long shot top 5, top 10 dudes, and then a plus money matchup or two, and then just get out of Dodge and watch the race for fun because you can handicap it all you want. It doesn't mean shit in the end.
Yeah, bet Hocevar, bet Zane Smith, bet
Exactly.
Corey LaJoy, $5. Get out. Give yourself something to be excited about.
Yep.
Let's talk Roval. And we were starting to have this discussion before we jumped on, but we were like, let's save it for the pod. So we have some decisions to make this week. Obviously, we'll run through betting odds, but I did want to pull up the playoff standings and kind of figure out where we're at, what we need to be considered about, because there's compelling numbers, but there's also drivers who are in really nice spots that may or may not be racing for the win. Maybe they're just trying to get some stage points. Maybe they're just trying to get a solid finish. As I mentioned, Byron is locked into the playoffs. Bell, Larson, Denny all seem like they're in a pretty good spot.
It is Byron officially locked in
Byron is
round 8?
officially locked into the round of 8.
Okay,
That
cool.
was shared out via NASCAR, via his socials. So I assume he's locked in. I'm guessing based on the number of points he's ahead, no one can pass. Like, these people can't pass him enough that he's out of the playoffs.
So first guy to consider on an outright this week. That'll be my
Byron.
first take. Yeah, just simply because he's already advanced, he has nothing to lose by going for a win here.
Yeah. You just gotta. His number is kind of ass, so you got to be careful. But yes, he has. He's a lot more comfortable and able to kind of just do what he wants. Bell, Larson, both feel pretty solid. Sure, could they be knocked out? Yes, but they're both really good here. Do you think either of them are just? You think they're in a position where they're pretty locked in, so they're going to be comfortable. They're going to try and get some stage points and then get out. Or do you think they're going to be racing for wins?
So I think that's the toughest decision that you have to make with yourself this week is trying to predict which guys are going to be points racing the entire day, and then which drivers, i.e., Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, who may take stage points in stage 1 and then flip their strategy to go for race wins based on their current standing and where the guys that are below the bubble have finished in that first stage. So, like, obviously William Byron's the only safe guy in that term. So betting an outright on him, I think, is fine. I think Christopher Bell and Larson are good enough as well that they could go for stage points in stage 1 and then still be able to fight for a race win. So I don't mind grabbing them on an outright, especially knowing how fast they are normally on Saturday before races. So that number could get a little bit shorter. But you also have to consider we got the ringers in the field this week in college with both AJ and SVG in the field. So you might get longer odds on all of these guys come Saturday evening. And this might actually be the first non-super speedway race where me personally, it's a wait and see till after practice and qualifying to even add much, because SVG is going to take in a shit ton of money regardless of what he looks like in practice, because he's going to qualify well.
Yeah. This feels like the more we talk about it, the more it feels like a race that it's going to be really, like, it's going to be a live betting race. Like, you want to save bullets in the chamber.
Yes.
So that way, as you can kind of feel out the race, you see who's racing for stage points. Maybe you watch, Bell got first in stage 1, or Larson got first in stage 1. Now they're comfortably locked in. Maybe you throw a little live opportunity, or maybe you wait till like pit cycle start, and then all of a sudden you see like a 6 or a 7. You're like, well, given where we're at, given what we've seen, because if you think, they're just racing for stage points and they're not actually racing for the win, the numbers now, even if they're a little bit longer, feel gross. So
yeah, and I think it's also imperative to remember that, like, there's going to be different strategies of guys during the race as well. And then you add in the new variants of turn 7, which looks like it's going to turn into an absolute shit show with guys trying to dive deep and taking people out. And so there's a lot that could go on in this race that could be flipping odds on their head. And so, yeah, like you said, I think this is kind of a slow play race. Definitely, there are some good values still out there, I believe, but this is definitely going to be a day where you want to live bet.
Yeah, let's look at the odds and talk through some of the names. So, as you mentioned, SVG in the field, he's 7 at FanDuel. FanDuel seems to have the best, just kind of overall. So, if you have access to FanDuel and you want to get down on some of these names, I recommend starting your shopping there and working your way out. So SVG 7, Dinger 8, Kyle Larson 10, Byron 11, Reddick 12, Bell 13. And then we get into some like Busher and stuff. So I guess let's stop at kind of the Bell, Reddick, Byron, because I think they're all compelling, close enough to 10. Are you adding either of the ringers, and then beyond them, the kind of that next group? Who are you interested in?
Yeah, so I'm actively trying to find a way to grab this SVG number before I make my way to Vegas this week. So yeah, SVG will be on the card at this 7 price. Dinger at 8. I don't know if I can get there because I know he's actually in his car. He's in the 16 this week, but if I'm not mistaken, I saw that they're actually flipping the crews to where Dinger is getting the 13 crew or something, and then Shane Van Gisbergen is getting the crew that he normally works with when he races in Cup. So, which is basically the 16 crew for the 13 cars. So, although he's in 16, he gets the worst crew. So I think it kind of levels that out. So Dinger, I'll probably be a wait on. Larson at 10 is very intriguing because you don't normally see him priced like this outside of super speedways. And this is a guy, if he qualifies well.
Yeah, he's 7 at DraftKings and Caesars already. So
yeah,
I'm gonna add him.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all because, like I was saying too, him and Bell sitting where they are in the standings, they can lock themselves in. If they can lock themselves in within the first stage and a half, or first half of the race, then it's all go for the race win. And we know Larson can make up ground anywhere.
Yeah. Can you look at the numbers in my cells and figure out why they're showing up funny while I talk? Yeah, and Larson feels like somebody that if he comes out and looks incredible in practice and qualifying, that number's gone. It's 4.5, it's 5, even with the ringers in the field. Byron, Reddick, Bell. Reddick is somebody that's compelling to me. Has pops on a lot of stuff. I'm looking at like the pre-practice and qualifying stuff on Win the Race. He's number 1. I'm looking at the Sim Center. He's crushing there. I'm looking at kind of recent form. I'm looking at Ryan and iFantasy Races stuff. He's popping there. So like all of that, like he has the best average finish over the last 3 Roval races. Has started first and fourth in his last 2 runs. So he's obviously really compelling, but we have to figure out, is he actually going to be racing for a win, or is he just trying to be like comfy, cozy finish? Because he's right on that bubble. So if he can be a little more, he can be a little less aggressive, try and get maybe a top 5, maybe get a few, maybe a stage win, maybe a top 3 stage finish in stage 2, something like that.
Let me just add the best finish of a previous Roval race winner since it's been moved to this spot as like the closing race of one of the rounds in the stage 1 is 10th by Dinger last year. And he wasn't even a playoff car. So if Tyler Reddick is basically in the dilemma of, do I have to go all in for the race win to lock myself in the playoff and forfeit all of those stage points that all of my competitors that are below me are assuredly going for, or just play the points game, try to stay out for both stages 1 and 2, gather as many points as possible, put myself behind the 8 ball late, and just pray that one of those guys that are behind me didn't somehow produce the track position to win the race in the end. For me, I think they're going to play it safe because like you can't bank on just being the best car when you have stage break cautions and you have the added nuance of turn 7 being changed that looks like an absolute clown show type of turn, where if this was last year and we didn't have the stage break cautions, I think Reddick would be way more inclined to go for a race win as opposed to with the actual breaks coming here.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, I think books are factoring that into the pricing, giving us numbers that are a lot more compelling than maybe we should. Yeah. I'm also looking just like in general, FanDuel is just like I'm looking at Action Network and it's just all FanDuel on the best prices section. So
well, and then I think it's also too because you look at the guys that are below the cut line, and You could say that Daniel Suarez has popped in the past at road courses. Cindric was kind of a road course guy when he first came into the sport, but not so much in Gen 7. Briscoe, I think the same conversation could be had about him. And then Joey Logano. I don't think people really consider him a threat in terms of speed and just racing style. That being said, something I said to you prior to jumping on here, this is probably Joey Logano's best road course race. I mean, he's qualified extremely well here. He's 8th or better, I believe, in the last 5 Roval races. So you know he's going to have a decent starting position. This is a guy, too, who could be going up front for a ton of stage points. And so Reddick is already probably thinking about this, that, oh, well, shit, I'm going to have to deal with this guy already to begin the race. And if anybody in the field is able to be there at the end by strategy, it's going to be the 22 team with them behind the 8 ball as it is. So I just don't think a guy like Reddick or even Chase Elliott, who's amongst the favorites for this race, can risk not getting stage points early on. And then I think that's a time where you can see, okay, what are the standings currently? Do they even have the ability to go for a race win late and just wait to add them then?
Yeah, because Chase will be like, or Chase and Reddick can both just like if they go in and pit early in stage 2, like they should if they really want to go for the win, they're going to lose out on a lot of points. But Chase Elliott's 15-1, and I'm like pulling
That's
myself.
not a bad number, but
still, fantastic number.
The problem though is that if he stays out and gets stage points, that number probably floats to 20. That's just kind of the way that I would view that, because everybody knows, even sportsbooks, they have to know if you get stage points in stage 1 of a road course race, the chances of you winning are 0 to none.
Yeah. And in the race last year, he started 8th. He stayed out to get stage points in stage 1. He won stage 2 and then ended up finishing 10th. Yeah. That 12 on Reddick at FanDuel and 15 on Elliott are both incredibly compelling, but I have reservations that both of them could be stage point racing.
Perfect example. Tyler Reddick won stage 1 last year here at the Roval after qualifying. Where did he qualify? He qualified on the pole last year. He won stage 1. He was only able to make it back up to 6th at the end of the race. So if the same situation happens, and also too, you have to account for the fact that during the Roval, we did not have an SVG in the field either.
Yeah.
And this year we have a SVG. So if he stays out, he is not winning.
Yeah, and Chase Elliott was first after stage 2, and he ended up finishing 9th. So,
exactly my point.
And he stayed out and got stage points in 22, and ended up finishing the race 20th. So I will.
Like the numbers scream bet me. I understand that, but
I think that's why the books are giving it to us. They make sure they get money.
Yeah, they know that people are going to grab that. I feel like, okay, so something else I was also thinking about, very similar to what I did last week, non-playoff drivers, I think are the most intriguing pre-flop outright plays right now.
Yeah.
Because they're the only guys that, what do they care about stage points? They could give 2 shits about stage points. They mean nothing.
Tyrone Gibbs at 14.
I don't hate it. The speed is there. The car, he finished 4th here last year. The thing is that the numbers on him keep getting shorter and shorter.
Well, they have to balance him out. If they're not going to have him, if they think these playoff drivers are not going for the win, somebody has to go for the win. Ugh, I'm not going to. He's going to win, and I'm not going to be on it. I'm going to be pissed.
I know it's terrifying, but honestly, I feel like this might be a spot where, like I said with Kansas, where I said Kansas I thought was Ty Gibbs' best shot to win a race. I think this is close to it. Outside of him having to compete with Dinger and SVG up front, I think Gibbs for me is probably one of my favorite placement drivers right now. If you can find decent odds on top 5, top 3 play, even potentially top Toyota, I think those are the markets you grab Gibbs in.
I do wonder if we get some decent prices on top 5 for like a chase, given where his outright odds are, but it probably isn't syncing up. I am gonna add Ross Chastain. He's 18. I found a 20, which I hit, but I'm looking at FanDuel and Chastain is 18. This dude, I don't know if Trackhouse figured something out or what happened, or they're just more comfortable at the latest tracks, but he's been significantly better. 18 is a really good number.
I wonder if it's just Chastain liking to be the fly in the ointment and
Oh
just
yeah, no, he thrives on chaos and being the reason why
yeah.
some of these jabronis don't make it. So
Yep.
he's happy to take them out. 18 would be my last buy price. I don't think I'm betting like 15 or 16 on him, but
No.
if you want to get invested, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money.
Ooh. I think
Are you going to bet Truex 24 because you're
no.
a sucker?
I the number right there, right above him though, KFB at 22. Look, I know most people have been a sucker for Truex. I know I was last week, but I've been on the KFB train for a couple of weeks now, and
Have fun. I've dipped my toe into that water. I can't. I can't.
Once you get burned by a guy too many times, you kind of steer clear. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Busch is due for a win. He's been so close so many times this year.
I can't wait for us to both have top 5s. I'm gonna have a 5 on Ross. You're gonna have a 5 on KFB, and Ross is gonna spin them out and get that top 5. And KFB,
Yeah, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be the opposite of Sonoma, where Kyle Busch was coming to be a top 5 car, or maybe it was top 10. I forget what the
it was
play
top
was.
5.
Yeah, and then Ross Chastain inexplicably went to the outside of him, gassed it up, and then basically wrecked Busch and ruined my top 5. Maybe he'll get some revenge on him this week.
God, I hope not. We kicked around the idea. You kind of mentioned it and that's where we ended up ending the conversation to figure out if we want to get invested. Alex Bowman. Are we in on Alex Bowman? Is he somebody that, given where he's sitting, we're willing to take a shot on him potentially winning the race?
I like Alex Bowman as a potential race winner, but I think, thinking about it more after talking through the Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott situation, I almost feel like him too would be more of a live ad, simply because he cannot bank on the guys below him. Okay, I think you can assume, it's safe to assume Logano, Suarez, Cindric, or Logano and, well, actually, I would say this. Probably Logano is the most likely of the guys below the bubble to take stage points, because he's only 13 behind Elliott and Reddick. So he's basically fighting those dudes. Whereas Suarez, Cindric, and Briscoe, they're all going to be playing their strategy to possibly win the race. And so if you don't take stage points, if you're a guy like Alex Bowman, Reddick, or Elliott, or even Logano, you run the risk of one of those 3 guys jumping you. And then also, even if you're not taking stage points, those guys making up ground, just finishing ahead of you in stages, and then wind up potentially stealing the race win.
Yeah.
And like, so of the guys currently in the playoffs, I think it's safe to assume Denny Hamlin, he's not racing for a win. He's going points racing. He knows he doesn't stand a chance against the top road racers here. So I think you can count him out for outright tickets and potentially even placement.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, is like Hamlin, Blaney.
Blaney's been he's been okay though. They just always run into issues.
But like, even Bowman to a lesser degree, like Larson, Reddick, Elliott.
Bowman is incredible here, though. That's the thing. He's really good.
I'm sorry
Like-
if I just threw up a little bit in my mouth, but I just added a ticket, and I'm going to add to the betting card.
Oh no! But yeah, so on Bowman, top 10s in all 5 Roval races he's run. He didn't run in 22. He's still injured, but yeah, every single time he's come here, 4th, 2nd, 8th, 10th, 8th. Which I think is a fair assessment of the type of driver he is on road courses. He's like a 7th through 12th guy, and that's kind of where he finishes. And Chicago was more of an anomaly in him winning.
Yeah. I just added Kyle Busch to the betting card.
I told you, you're a sucker too. But we're going to ride it together.
I can't keep falling for the football trick, and yet every time it's pulling it out, and I keep going for it and falling on my ass.
I mean, dude, he's the same situation. Like, what is he racing for? He's not racing for points. He's going to go for a win.
Yeah, and he's the last 3 years, third, and fourth. Like, he's consistent. He's been good. He's been in a contention.
But I will say though, like, these guys are battling probably the 2 best road course racers we have in Dinger and SVG. And so I almost feel like if you can find a colleague at, say, plus 500, I feel like that's the bet. If you could get that, you just bet that and then maybe sprinkle something else, like 2 other guys. Yeah, I don't even know if anybody's going to list that yet.
Colleague is 3-1.
I mean, I don't even hate that. I mean, you're getting possibly the 2 favorites to win the race. The 2 guys that are least likely to care about points. They are here.
If SVG comes out and smokes the field, that number could be 3-1 or 3.5 or 4-1.
Well, shit, SVG is 4-1 at most places. And Dinger is sub 10 as well. You know?
Yeah. Hendrick being plus 230, given where their drivers are at, is kind of interesting. I think obviously all of them are sort of compelling, but nobody's priced that aggressively.
I mean, hell, now that we're talking about this, I don't even know if you just don't play Chevy to win.
Yeah.
Eat the juice. So it's minus 140 at Bet365.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's minus 165 at FanDuel. I think the minus 140 would probably be the best number, but you just eat the juice at minus 140 because you get SVG, Dinger, KFB, Chastain, Byron, who is already locked into the playoffs and can go for a race win, Kyle Larson, who can lock himself in stage 1. And then you can just pitter patter with, say, Gibbs, McDowell, Busher.
That's it.
That's your
where's
entire card.
140 at?
Bet365.
Yeah, it's going on the card. Five-star gold member locked on the card. Let's go.
Yeah, because then at that point, like I was saying, I think it's safe to then come back with a Gibbs, a Busher.
Well, and we're also talking about like our concerns with a lot of these guys. So rather than trying to pick and choose who may or may not be racing for a win, we just group them all together. So we're excited, and we grab also allows us to include a Chastain, a Kyle Busch, some other names that aren't racing for playoff points, and just bundle them up, see what happens. McDriver, Truex, Suarez, Cindric, Logano. Are Are you gonna try and talk us into a Logano win 44-1?
No, because I think Logano again, because he's only 14 below the cut line, that can be made up in one corner with a guy wrecking, with one of the guys above him wrecking. If it's Reddick or Elliott and they get taken out early, Logano immediately jumps into the field just by accumulating stage points.
Yeah.
You know,
All right.
so
So in
I'm not.
terms of
Yeah, go ahead.
outrights, you have SVG at 7. You have KFB at 22. Is there anybody else on your short list for potential ads between now and qualifying?
So I like Dinger, but of course I prefer double digits. I just have a hard time getting single digits on Dinger when.
Yeah.
I like the Chevy to win bet. I may. Wait, what was Colleague? They're 3-1.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna play that instead of Gisbergen. Where was that?
I think that was Caesars. What about BetMGM usually has it? Let's take a peek.
Yeah, I don't think they have anything posted yet.
Looks like they just have outrights. Yeah, it was 3-1 at finish. No.
This is great. Oh, here we go. Bet365 has it too. They're plus 325. Colleague.
That's better.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that, and I'm not going to bet SVG.
Okay. So you have Colleague at 325. You have KFB at 22. Any other outrights you're considering?
So I think Gibbs, out of the Toyotas, I feel like Gibbs and Bell are the most likely. I'd be a little sketchy on Bell because he's not the best road racer.
No. And like inside 15-1, like I don't.
Yeah, they're scary. And then the Fords, though, Busher, I think, is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. I mean, he held off SVG, but I'm not getting down at 14. They suck ass at qualifying. You're probably getting a longer number.
Yeah.
Post qual. So I'd wait on him and also McDowell.
Yeah.
Who I think are probably the most likely Fords to win the race. Now, do I think it'd be a bad idea to sprinkle a little bit on like Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe? Absolutely not, because they are going for a win. That is the only way they're getting in to the next round.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and Cindric might reward us this week after letting us down last week, but I'm not going to line up to bet it.
Yeah, so I might get a little bit down on that, especially when you consider Briscoe's at 50 and Cindric is 37 at FanDuel.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can't with our offshores where they're at.
Oh, absolutely not. The one thing though is, again, going back to it real quick to close out the outright talk. SVG is probably going to qualify on the front row, and all of the numbers below him are going to get longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things are going to adjust. Someone is going to go out there and crush it in qualifying and practice and really adjust these numbers. So I have Larson at 10 because I think he could be that guy. I have Chastain at 18. I have KFB at 22. And then I bet Chevy to win at minus 140. And that's my big bet of the day. Let's talk other bets. Finishing position, that kind of stuff. I'm guessing FanDuel doesn't have any of that, but let's see. So top 5. SVG minus 125. Woof. Dinger. Woof. Larson. Woof.
I mean, however, when you consider how good,
yeah,
the likelihood of SVG
of the tracks where like finishing position feels most stable, road courses are definitely number one. So it's definitely obviously the numbers are priced the way they are for a reason, but if you are worried about stage break caution, or if you're worried about stage points and not wins, a top 5 might be the move. Just heavy and call it a day. Let's look over here because it looks like their numbers are better. So why don't you tell the fine folks the number you added to the card?
Yeah, so I'm going to play the Kyle Busch plus 325 top 5. He's been too good at road courses and of late in general to avoid this number for a guy who is going. His sole purpose of racing this weekend is to go for a win. So he's going to be up front.
I just worry that his going for a winness will end up having him send it in the corner and then he finishes like 17th.
Yeah, but that's all right though. The point of this though is that that's where he's going to be racing. It's not like he's going to be taking stage points and then falling back through the field, you know? His entire strategy is going to be based on trying to win and gathering track position regardless of where he starts. You know?
I hate this so much.
And you're getting a decent number on it too.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're definitely getting paid. So I added Chastain's top 5 and Kyle Busch's top 5. My goal is to hit at least 1, if not 2. Bowman 375, Logano 400.
Not necessarily for a top 5. I don't. What is Logano's?
4. Joey Logano, plus 120 for a top 10.
Yeah, I think I like that a little bit more. Let me look though. I almost feel like for Joey, so I'm looking at top Ford market, he's plus 550. But again, I think he's gonna points race early, is my assumption. I could be completely wrong on this, but with him only being 14 below the cut line, all that's going to take is an early wreck by one of the guys that are above him that aren't already locked in, and then he just has to ride around all day.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you like Logano, you lock in some stuff now. Hope he qualifies well like he has, performs well, his numbers shorten, and then you kind of see how the race goes. And then if you want to get involved.
Speaking of qualifying well, Joey Logano, top average starting position at the Roval.
That's what I'm saying. I think if you want exposure to Logano, I think you have to get it now.
Now, of course, back in 2022, when he won the championship, he started on the pole here, but wound up finishing 8th. He was probably in a much better point situation than he is now, but that just goes to show you, like, he can put it up front at the Roval. But again, if he does that and he just rides around, gathers the stage points, and this is a big if.
But it feels like there's a lot of question marks around him. Like he's just outside. Obviously, he could easily move up, but
yeah, he's a scary guy to bet this week.
These names would have to fall out, and like Elliott's really good here. Reddick's really good here.
Would you be surprised if Ryan Blaney gets left reared on the first couple of laps and then is taken out, and then Logano, all he essentially has to do at that point is just gather stage points?
No, I can't say I'd be surprised.
Exactly.
It just feels like a recipe for.
Oh man, I love the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Say what you will about it not rewarding the best car and all that, and I complain about that too, but the intrigue that it offers is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't like it's making my head hurt a little bit, to be honest. Like it's like I have enough to worry about week to week to figure out who's going to win these damn races, and now I'm trying to also figure out, will they be racing? Will they just going for stage points? What are the guys around them going to do? Do I need to be worried about someone crashing and completely throwing all their stuff out the window? Like, there's just so many
Okay. So
variables.
on that, we need to look at matchups because I feel like there is a lot of stuff that you could take advantage of this week in that area because of the differing strategies that guys are
Yeah.
going to be playing.
And I think if you think someone's racing for a win, you bet they're outright and you fade them in matchups.
Exactly.
2311 versus Trackhouse plus 100. I know it's basically Reddick versus Ross and Suarez.
So I have a better one.
Okay.
Instead of betting Trackhouse versus 2311, this is going to sound completely disgusting, but on Bet365, you can get Ross Chastain minus 130 over Denny Hamlin. Chastain has no business going for stage points. Hamlin, from what I expect, is the most likely playoff guy to just go for points because he's not good at road courses.
But doesn't that make you want to bet Hamlin in that case? Because you think Ross is going to send it?
That means post the start of the last stage, Chastain is going to have much better track position because he is going to be pitting prior to the stage break and he's going to make up all that ground.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love Chastain in that matchup. Other ones that I'm looking at here. So here's another one. Chris Buescher plus 120 over Chase Elliott.
So I was just looking at that. Why?
I'm smashing Buescher in this matchup.
Because you think Chase Elliott's points racing and he's just going to
100%. And you're going to give me plus 120 for the guy that just won our most recent road course and drove from like 20th position to do so? Come on. And what has Elliott proven on road courses in Gen 7 to say that he should be a favorite over a guy who has ran as well as Buescher has at road courses and factoring in the situation that Elliott is in the playoff standings? This to me should be flipped on its head. It should be Buescher minus 150 and Elliott plus 120.
Wait, Buescher's plus money?
Yes, Buescher is plus 120.
Oh, because he's minus one. He's minus 130 on Caesars.
Oh, look at okay, perfect. You got to hedge it. You can hedge this, people. You can bet $1 and then 95 cents, and you're guaranteed to profit here. This is perfect. Look at we're finding hedge opportunities for people everywhere. Yeah, if you're going to give me plus money on Buescher over Chase, I'm taking that every day.
What about Bowman over Suarez?
No, I worry a little bit about that because Suarez too, because he still has a chance to advance with a win. He's going to try to establish track position any way possible. Now, he's probably the most likely guy to wreck out, but yeah, I don't really want to touch that. Because Bowman's on the cusp of guys for points, and he's been good. He's been solid at road. I mean, top 10s in every time he's come here. So,
yeah. If you think someone like Suarez or Briscoe can win, and you maybe even bet them outright in this race, are you looking to add some of their futures just because that puts them in the top 8, or are you? That's still a long way to get before you get to the championship talk. That it's not worth jumping in it, even at long numbers.
I would still probably rather wait on them just because, like, Suarez, for instance, when we go to the next round, what of those tracks do you have confidence that he's going to do much at? You know, I mean, we go to Vegas where, yeah, sometimes Trackhouse has been good, but there are so many other cars that are better, you know? So I would wait on him. Cindric too. Like, what has he done?
Nothing.
Yeah. And at this point, I would rather wait to see him kind of flounder in Vegas and then jump on it, you know, wait to see if you get some crazy long odds on somebody. But yeah, I love those matchups there. I also think there's another one that I'm considering, and this is
Dinger
kind
over Byron. I know it's like weird juice, but
no, it involves Dinger, and this is blasphemous for me to say.
oh god,
But Dinger is the underdog to Tyler Reddick at Bet365. He's minus 105 to Reddick minus 125.
that seems
And
good.
same situation as Elliott. Reddick cannot risk going for a race win this weekend and forfeiting all of those stage points early. Because if they just points race the entire time and wind up say 10th or 11th at the end of the day, there is no possible way that those guys currently behind them are going to pass them up unless they win the race. And I really don't see those guys below the cut line winning in that scenario. Whereas Dinger, he sure as hell is going to be up there up front. Unless, of course, what happened at Watkins Glen happens again, and we don't even get to see him turn a lap. So, I mean, this is gross, but I'm actually gonna play that. The Dinger over Reddick at minus 105.
Seems reasonable.
It's very gross, but I just feel the current situation calls for that.
What about Cindric over Truex at minus 115?
I think they're kind of in the same situation. Like Truex isn't points racing; he could go out and try to race for the win too.
Yeah, but
And who do you trust more? But who do you trust more on like road course type tracks?
Cindric.
What? Come on.
At this point, Cindric.
Yeah. I do think you're going to get a lot of people to play McDowell at plus money over Christopher Bell, which I don't hate that, but I think that might be a mistake because Bell is a lot safer than the rest of these guys. And like I was saying earlier in the show, he could gather points early, lock himself in, and then they flip their strategy and then go for a win.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't touch that one.
Logano over Suarez.
Honestly, so what's your story then? Your story, the story of your race.
The story is somebody in front of Logano crashes. He doesn't crash. He stays out for stage one. He gets a decent enough points. He pits early for stage two because he thinks he has to go for the win and he can grab track position. And he finishes like 6th, and Suarez finishes 14th because he crashed. Or Suarez crashes and he's out of the race, and then Logano's like, all right, and then he just, even if he gets 15th, he still wins. I think there's a couple paths to victory there, and at plus
I think
money.
That's fair. Now, Suarez has qualified third in the previous 2 Roval races, so you have the top qualifying car at the Roval versus the guy who's qualified third the last 2 years. So if you don't think these odds are going to move, I don't mind the Logano play. I just don't really trust either one of them. That's the thing, is you don't know what you're going to get out of the 22 camp, and then I can't trust Suarez to do anything.
Yeah. Logano plus 275 to make the round of 4 is interesting.
Yeah, but I don't even like that, though. Like, I think you're better off. You could play him to win Vegas.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. Anything else for the Roval you want to look at before my card gets like absurdly long?
I'm looking at more matchups here. That's wild. You could flip the Elliott and Busher.
We will be on the hunt for more matchups and trying to find more value. We will tweet out what we find if we add stuff between now and post qualifying and practice. As of right now, my card is already way too long, but that's okay. Larson, Chastain, KFB all in the card. Chevy to win at -140. Chastain and KFB to top 5.
Gross.
Chastain over Denny and Busher over Chase at plus money. Brian has Colleague to win at plus 325. KFB at 22 to 1. KFB top 5. Busher over Elliott and Dinger over Reddick. Anyone else you're trying to find exposure to that you haven't yet, Brian, or any other bets that you're kicking around the idea of adding before we log out?
So I might just get down on the SVG top 5 at -120 or whatever I can get it at. I feel like that's almost a guarantee outside of him wrecking. And then I think Logano. I really feel like he is too skilled of a driver not to somehow manufacture a decent run here outside of him getting wrecked. So I am going to find a way to get him on my card.
Yeah, I think both those make sense. I think I'm going to regret not having an ASVG, so I'll probably hunt and peck my way through it, but we'll see. Yeah, and I don't have any Toyota either, which is certainly something. So we'll figure
it's because
out.
the best Toyota of the camp, like he's not going to be up front. Yeah. He can't afford to.
Yeah, Reddick is someone I would like to get. I want to get some more chase action, but we'll see. But I think I need to get paid out considering I'm fading him in a matchup and worried about him, staying out in stage 2. So we'll see. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back to get you set for the Roval once the running order is set and practice is in the books. Until then, we'll talk to you next time.